Live from Kent, this is The Late Late Show with Toby Payne-Cook and Ed Finch. And you are listening live.
Last one ever. Last year, everybody. You never know. We might come back and do one of those reunion tours, make lots of money. For the time being, this is our last show. And we are... Oh, look, Ed's here. Wow. He's in early. I thought he was naked just now. Anyway, not what you can be for radio.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org or join in the conversation by downloading the Podbean app and following Teachers Talk Radio. #TT Radio.
Hashtag TT Radio. I'm going to miss it. Hashtag TT Radio. Hello, Ed.
Yes. Hello, how are you? Have you prepared for this? Is this surprisingly emotional to you? Is it?
Well, yes, a bit. It is a bit, actually.
It kind of crept up on me a tiny bit. I didn't think it would be, but now I'm like, oh, great times, man. Great times.
I know. My emotions are a little suppressed because when I had my leaving party. We spoke about this last week, but when I had my leaving party from school, which was in the midst of term time, 2 weeks before the end of term. Bleep. I did all my sort of emotions about leaving school and moving on kind of then by doing all these silly awards and stuff. And so when my colleague Steve, who wrote me a lovely leaving speech, he was sort of weeping buckets because he was leaving as well at the staff party at the end of term. But I still am an emotional guy. I'm a very emotional guy.
You are an emotional
it gets me in
guy.
trouble. But my emotions are a little suppressed due to mild medication. So I am sort of, I can still feel
and a cruel upbringing as well. That'll do it.
Yeah, but no, I am sad because it's a lot of fun doing this. And when we're available and we're not too tired and we're not too busy, it's a really nice thing to do. And so I am, but in September, I'm going to be working 5.5 days a week, and I've gone a bit single-minded, as our regular listeners know, in the sense that I just think I need to not be worrying about, oh gosh, I've got to be on the radio for an hour with my good friend Ed, and also I think just looking through what Tom sent us through on some of our shows. We've done some good shows, and we're going to talk about them. We've done some good shows, very focused on teaching, very focused on topical, quite controversial things.
So is there a correlation? So we should say to the listeners, we asked Tom to send us a list of our most downloaded on the. I don't know why they're the most downloaded. It may have been a slow week. It may have been that we were at the top of the list because we started with A or something. I don't know, but. Yeah. So, and I haven't looked at that list. Have you? You've had a chance to click through and see what the themes were, have you?
I've had a little flick. And we can do it later in the show. But a lot of the ones with the most downloads were our early shows. When we started out. And Teachers Talk Radio, I think, was sorry to the powers that be, but I think it was quite relatively new, and there were more shows, and it had a slightly. I think people were a bit more engaged with it than they are perhaps now. I think people. That's my perception. I don't know. I'm not on the twits, so I'm not really actively.
Yeah, I mean, if Tom's listening, and I don't believe he is, but if he is, then maybe he could drop in some stats. I don't know if we've got more listeners to the platform or less listeners to the platform. But anyway, it's been a pleasure for us to have a natter. I'm going to say it. So, it's been quite a challenging time for me this last couple of years.
Yeah.
Professionally and personally. And, knowing that I was going to hang out with you on a Wednesday night, it's been something in the week. And until I started my Crediton Strummers, which I'm sure I'll chat about a little bit before the end of the show, because we had our first gig last night, and that was great. But, until I started that, this was the one thing in the week that was about, about friendship and connection. So, and not just you, Toby. Richard and Lucy and Maxim, and all those lovely people who've been joining in,
and sometimes
I don't know
Mrs.
why they've been
P.
listening. It's really kind of them. It's like there must be better stuff out there to listen to or to watch. There's the whole of Netflix, but I'm really grateful to those people because it's given me a sense of friendship at a time when, I did need it. I don't know if I let on how hard it was, but it was at times pretty tricky. And thank you to everybody who gave us that boost. Maybe we needed it more than the audience did, and maybe the audience knew. In which case, guys, thank you.
Well, I think that's the thing. It has been a very emotional time for both of us in different ways, and this radio show and my still relatively new friendship with you are an absolute. It's an absolute. So you are a great man, and it's a real privilege to got to know you,
Mate, I'll give you a
and
big
spend
hug.
time with you, and
Yeah.
and I think we're quite but it's not really. You're quite good on the radio. I think
I don't know if we are, but
we no, but we're both quite we've both were quite eloquent and a little bit,
our own voices.
yeah,
Is that what we're
I,
saying?
authentic. I think we're authentic. I think
Oh,
and you are who you are. You don't dress up anything. You don't play any games. And
no,
that's
that's true.
hard in your job for the next 3 days, still 2 days,
Two more days. Do you
two,
know
and it's
what?
hard.
People have been saying things to me about, because I think it's definitely out now that I'm leaving. People have been saying things to me which are incredibly moving. Parents and carers and grandparents and colleagues and people who are to do with the school but not technically colleagues. And the things they've been saying, they're really moving. And I'm like, wow, I don't know. I did the job for a couple of years and somebody did it before me and someone will do it after me. And you'd better stay humble in the teaching game, you know?
Yeah,
People have been saying, you will be remembered and you've made a big difference and you've made this school a kinder and more caring place than it was before. And I think if that's even a little bit true, if they're not just being nice, then that's not a bad thing to have done. And a parent said to me today, and I mean, I couldn't speak for a bit. He said, that, Mr. Finch, you're a man with richness in a way that many wealthy people will never know. And I thought, blimey, you know,
whoa, that's a line.
if that's true, and and the man was weeping when he said it, so I think he was speaking some sort of truth. You know, but you go, well, I don't know, maybe I do make a difference, maybe I try, but you just got to be open to the universe, haven't you? Really, if in hippie language, or at one with yourself and at one with the people around you. But we do
But
our
I think,
best, don't we? We just do our
yeah,
best.
on that note about richness, we have
Mm.
spoken about books sometimes on this program,
We have,
and I
but not so
just
much as we
finished.
used to. It used to be a
No,
regular part, didn't it?
yeah,
In the early
but I
days.
think the
Maybe we
last
had a
few weeks,
stronger format in the early days, and
I
maybe
think
that
so.
helped. Yeah.
I think so. We had a stronger from it, but I think we've had all those conversations, and we could repeat them. But we've
Mm.
sort of had those conversations about books and about music and about this and that and the other. But just on books for just a moment, I just finished a wonderful novel, a really interesting and very very original novel by Hernan Diaz called Trust. It's about, and you mentioned richness, and it's sort of it's four stories in one. It starts with a novel within a novel, if that makes sense. Um,
Hmm.
and then a part written memoir, and then memories of co-authoring the memoir. Basically the writer, the ghost writer, if you like, who is
Hmm.
writing this famous financier's autobiography, and then at the end his late wife's voice from some diary entries. Um,
Mm.
and oh wow, it blew me away. Actually, really really interesting. I strongly recommend it. Trust by Hernan Diaz. It was nominated, longlisted for the Booker Prize last year. Um, and it's about wealth. It's about different versions of the truth. And but it's very clever as well. It's very very clever the way it sort of builds, and yeah, it's quite heavy going in the middle, I'd say, a little bit slow
Hmm.
in the middle, but yeah, but richness, but also you're just the person who described you that way, Ed.
Mm.
um Steve, my dear friend who did my leaving speech, sent me it, but
Oh.
and he wrote something. He compared me to Maria, the song Maria. How do you solve a problem
Mhm.
like Maria? And there's lots of stuff in there that I don't really want to read out over the radio. But there's one or two lines in there which I am going to share with you now, as I've mentioned it, but I can't work out where the damn thing is. Here it is. Here it is. There it is. Okay, there. Okay. So there's this line, and this is the verse, the second verse of Maria. When I'm with her, I'm confused, out of focus, and bemused, and I never know exactly where I am. Unpredictable as weather. She's as flighty as a feather. She's a darling. She's a demon. She's a lamb. She'd outpester any pest, drive a hornet from its nest. She could throw a whirling dervish out of whirl. She's gentle, she is wild. She's a riddle, she's a child. She's a headache, she's an angel. She's Toby Payne Cook. So how do you solve a problem like Toby PC? How do you catch a cloud and pin it down? Contrary to first listen, this song is not about the weather, clouds, and moonbeams. No, this song is all about trying to hold on and catch a moonbeam in your hand, which is impossible. And that's exactly how I see you, Toby. The song is about a nonconformist in a world of conformity. And for as many people she frustrates, an equal amount of people love her dearly. Can you see the link? And he said, this final paragraph: the world is populated with thousands, millions of mundane, safe, risk-averse, perfectly nice people. But occasionally, very rarely, you come across an individual, that is rare, someone who can't pigeonhole. That's you, and trust me, that's the very highest accolade I can give you. No one's perfect, and you, my friend, are so far from perfect. I won't go on. But I was very touched by that. And but we're the sort of, that's been a recurring theme through our shows. I think it's been talking about educators. What is it? What's it? If it's sort of episodic memory versus semantic memory, isn't it? We've spoken about that sort of stuff. And semantic memory is the nuts and bolts of education. Really, you never really remember when you're an adult, when you first learnt the sevens times table, or when you first saw a benzene ring, if you're a chemist, or when you first came across the causes of the First World War. Was it for GCSE? Was it in Key Stage 3? Was it for A level? I don't know. You don't remember when you did, or when you read a key work of fiction if you studied English literature. But you do remember, the episodes, don't you, of your schooling and of your childhood, and you remember the teachers who were really, really good and maybe really, really strict. And you also remember the teachers who were perhaps not strict enough, and you could get away with murder with and things. But you also remember the big characters who just touched you in some sort of way, not physically, hopefully. And I think that's important to people, particularly in a primary school or an independent prep school. When you're grinding out A-level economics or psychology or chemistry or maths, perhaps it's not quite so important, but relationships still matter right up to the end of school. But when you're a precious child of someone, pre-adolescent, the impact that a head teacher or a classroom teacher has on you and your wider family can be enormous, and it's
huge. It's funny that I think primary education. I was thinking, you're going to go through 6 years of primary education, 7 if you include reception, and you're going to have 7 different teachers in that time, and some of them are really learning focused. Some of them possibly less so. A friend of mine is a bit concerned because her daughter is going into a new class next year with a new teacher, and the teacher, she knows, he makes great relationships. The children have an ace time. He tells stories. He plays a guitar and he sings, and I'm feeling a little bit seen here. Yeah, the children have a great year, and she's saying, yeah, he hasn't really got his foot on the accelerator when it comes to learning, though. They, in a way, they kind of tread water for a year, and you go, do you know what? I, as an outgoing head teacher, I'm not going to be a head teacher after Friday, and I don't think I'll ever do it again, probably, unless there's a massive change in how education is funded, thought of, and respected by powers in this country. But I don't. If you're saying that you've got a teacher who provides a really positive male role model in a world where not every kid's got a positive male role model, who shows that it's cool to like stories and fun, who can play guitar and sing to the class and model that vulnerability and that confidence at the same time, who can make sure that you put down all those memories which you will look back on as an adult and say, I can't remember. Do you remember when we spent a whole week building those bridges, and how exciting it was when we got to drive the little, toy car over them, whatever it is, I think that's pretty damn good. I think that's pretty damn good. And you will probably have a teacher somewhere else in a school who's not so memorable, who's not so charismatic, who doesn't sing a lot of songs, who gets that writing going and makes sure they can remember their times tables, because remembering your times tables really is a key to an awful lot of other maths. I'm down with that. I like both teachers. I think they're both good teachers. And here's the
Absolutely.
thing. But when you're sitting in the pub 30 years later, you'll be saying, do you remember the guy with a guitar who used to tell us those stories?
Yeah.
And you won't say, do you remember that teacher who made sure that we really nailed our times tables because she knew that next year we were going to need them when we were doing long division? You know, it's kind of not fair, but life isn't very often fair. We need those teachers. And I think, at times, different times in your career, maybe you get to be both of them, but as a child goes through school, if you only ever got one sort, either way, it'll be something of an impoverished primary education. I want my sisters are in their mid-50s now and still talk about that lovely teacher who would tell stories, and he built, this is the most amazing thing, he built a campfire out of tissue paper and coloured cellophane and twigs. And he put like a bike light inside it so it looked like a real fire, and then they put it in the hall and they could sit round and have like campfire stories. They've remembered that for 50 years. 50 years. Man probably threw it together and went, I don't know what I'm doing today. I think I might tell him some stories. I love it. Do you know?
Yeah,
I love
it. I think that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because I think in larger schools, whether they're large, 3 or 4 form or for entry primary schools, or in most secondary schools, most senior schools, which have got at least 4 or 5 classes per year, sometimes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, even 12 sometimes. And I think then the pressure, if you have, maverick's a dangerous word to use, but if you have a big character as one or two of the teachers in that year group, in that cohort, in that subject, whatever it is, and then others, very different. There's a lot of pressure in education at the moment, isn't it, to be quite similar to each other or to cover the same topics in the same way at the same pace, and not necessarily go completely to scripted lessons, but it's headed that way a bit, and I think that's, well, it's certainly not why I came into education, and it's not why I, if my school was like that, if I went back to school and every lesson was despite the teacher, if that makes sense, then yes, as you say, for some teachers who were a little bit ropey with their behavior management and a little bit not that passionate about their subject and a little bit just not seemingly very interested in the job, actually, then yeah, I guess sometimes you'd wish for, if only I could have the teacher next door, or if only I could have someone who actually knew what they were talking about, or someone who cared what they were talking about. But in the most part, if you remove the human element of passing on and sharing and developing knowledge and skills and whatever else, and social skills and connectivity to something bigger than ourselves, if you dehumanize that too much, then that's it's ridiculous as well when the world is becoming more dehumanized.
There is so I'm the head teacher of a Church of England school. I'm not a Christian myself, and that's not an expectation of a head teacher of a Church of England school. But we are asked to sort of think about some things that you could be a leader of a non-church school, and you could just say, well, it is about the SATs. And as the leader of a Church of England school, you can't. It's in the fabric of the building that you will be thinking about spirituality. So we use this model of spirituality, which is taken from some contemporary Christian writers. We talk about spirituality. It's very difficult because everybody means different things by it, don't they? You talk to different people. They say, "Oh, I'm a very spiritual person. What do you mean?" And then they'll flounder for a bit, or they might say something which is very specific to their own faith position. But we seem to be able to share, and this is what the writers say, an idea of spirituality as a relational awareness of ourselves, our connections to others, and our relations to the wider world, around us and beyond us. And like, you could probably look at that as a humanist or a Christian or a Muslim or a Sikh or a Buddhist and say, yeah, sort of is. It starts with me, and it's about how I interact with the people around me. Am I in tune with them? Am I in tune with myself? And how does that link me to the wider world around and beyond? Now, if you look at systems where they've tried to cut out the human, so a really good example is the Plasma Schools project in Ethiopia, where they said, look, we just can't afford to get decent teachers, but a big Western funder paid for these massive plasma screens to go into rural schools and to have like equipment fitted on the roof so they could pick up lessons that were beamed direct from the capital. And this is the idea. We'll get the very best teachers. We'll get the very best teachers to teach either live or asynchronously, and it'll be beamed out to all these rural schools where they can't even get us teachers to go and work there. But here they are. They're going to get the very, very best that could be on offer. What a beautiful idea. And just about everything that could possibly go wrong with that project went wrong with that project. It's a fun game to play. It's an anecdote I've been telling quite a lot recently, because you think about Oak and you think about all this well-meaning stuff. What could possibly go wrong? The one is that people just don't feel any connection to it, so they're just not emotionally involved. Obviously, there was everything that possibly could go wrong with the technology would go wrong, and then you couldn't get it replaced. So, if you got a ropey electricity supply, you burn out a capacitor, and then you got a dead screen, and everybody's too embarrassed to say anything about it because you've broken a screen, so you don't tell head office, so it never happens. Or there was schools where the schoolkeeper would just keep that room locked. He said, "Oh yeah, I'm not letting them in there. Somebody will nick the screen," so the kids never got to go in. But that fundamental thing of saying, you could, it's not the telly. It's not the telly. When I tell a story to a class, I'm not as good at doing it as Rick Mail or Brian Cant or I don't know, or
Brian Cant. Can we just celebrate the name that is Brian Cant? I've such
man.
fond memories of Brian Cant, and it's such a brilliant name, Brian Cant. Everybody,
great name.
It's how the Cockneys say another word.
Connection. Brian Cant on the telly is good, but your teacher in your class is gold.
Yeah.
They don't have to be great. You just have to do it.
I was just, whilst you're talking about that, I was just thinking about this thing about, we're all interested in different things, and some people are, what's it? The Einstein quote, the skewed Einstein quote, as most of his quotes probably are. But I have no special talents. I'm just insatiably curious, or whatever, etc., etc. But there are a few people in this world who are very, very curious about lots and lots of things. But mostly we're curious about things that we are for some reason interested in. But why are we interested in those things? Normally because someone we think is cool, or a great friend, or a family member, or a mentor, or a teacher, or a lecturer, or a something, has fired up our enthusiasm about that thing. So we've become interested in it too, or a DJ, a radio DJ has played a song by this. Check out this band. This band are fantastic, and you respect that DJ, and therefore you buy into that, So we're normally interested in stuff, or we normally become a chemist or a writer or whatever we become, a teacher, because someone who's been doing that role or has been interested in that before us and has inspired us. So the idea that you can take humans out of the art of developing people is a bit weird, isn't it, really? And particularly in the age of AI and the rapid advancement of programs and things like ChatGPT, that sort of stuff is advancing so fast, and yet our education system is just all about memory, and yes, of course, learning and academic learning. What's it? Willingham's say, memory is the residue of thought. You're not going to learn anything if you don't think about it lots and repeat it lots and practice it lots. That's a perfectly sensible statement. However, computers have got much better memories than us now, and collectively, and so whereas there are lots of things that computers can't do that we can do, so we should be celebrating and developing those in schools as alongside the. Anyway, there we go. We've been quite serious on this, our last show so far, Ed.
Yeah, I was imagining more frivolity, but it's fine. It's fine. We haven't lost any listeners over it, I don't think.
No. Well, I don't think I've even said hello to anybody. So we got Lucy and Maxim and Tim, and I think Richard Newbold's in, and we've got you and me, and with Paul Foz, who's been listening regularly recently, and I think it's lovely. You guys have been very, very important to us. Lucy and Maxim have listened to virtually every show. I think Tom's in the house now. Tom, we've been talking quite seriously, Tom. We're just currently celebrating our regular listeners, our regular live listeners who've been very, very loyal. And I know from the download stats, there's an awful lot of people who have listened to this show and we don't know who they are, and for some reason, or maybe they've downloaded it and listened to the first 1 minute and never listened to the rest of it again. Who knows? But it's been, having had, for Tom's benefit, quite a nice and serious discussion about our sort of our personalities and the impact of personality on teaching and in schools and on the difference between episodic and semantic, memories and sort of the teaching, the memory of teachers and the memory of experience in school. That's what we've been talking about. We're now just celebrating this thing we've been doing. So, Ed,
I don't know if you've been looking at the chat, but it's just worth very quickly having a look at Maxim's comment. He says he'd like to point out that he listens from outside the UK, so we actually have an international reach.
Yes, Maxim's wearing silver foil underneath his clothes, isn't he? Because he's from the Isle of Man. Far show sketch. All
right, okay. He listens from the hot tub. He doesn't always listen from the hot tub.
Oh,
can you imagine? Wet listen as well as dry listen. He says he's done 3 levers assemblies this week. I've got to do my levers assembly tomorrow. Maybe, Maxim, you can help me out and just give me some pointers. I've been so busy, I haven't turned my brain to it.
How many? Explain, Maxim, very briefly, why are you doing so many levers assemblies? Are these for different groups of levers?
He's like an exec head now. He's got 3 schools, not just the one.
Oh, I see. You're going around different. So you aren't repeating assemblies for the same cohort. These are in different schools. Okay, I get you. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
Laxey only Maxim. It was Laxey school only, and now he's got 2 others that he has to take care of. He's the big
I saw the Doonies on the twits, actually, briefly dipped in, mainly dipping in to try and persuade Blur to tell me who's supporting them in Luca, but that's my main reason for being on Twitter, but they won't tell me. I'll find out in Luca on Saturday night.
Right. Now, the next thing, you were going to say something profound, and then we were going to break for the news. What was the profound thing you were going to say?
Well, I think have you got more than one song in you tonight, Ed?
Oh, I have. Well, I'll better find a ukulele. Hang on a sec. Let me go and see if I can find one.
No. Let's do 2 at the end because
suggestions, but you were just mentioning bands rather than us. I mean, I'll do anything. No. I'm an all request machine.
Well, why don't we sort that whilst the news is on? You sort that whilst the news is on, and so you can practically do 2 or 3 at the end.
Listener, would you like if you can remember a song I sang at any point in the last couple of years, and you'd like to hear it again? Drop it into the chat. We'll see if we can do it. We're going to do as many as you like between now
chat, and we can just do parts of those songs. But my view is that we need to do the "Fight for Your Right to Party" by the Beasties because I can't remember. It was Miss Saeed. I don't think she listens anymore. She may still just download it. I don't know. But she did that fantastic sort of meme of us as the or was that Miss Charlie? I don't know who it was. Maybe it was Miss Charlie. I can't remember.
She does.
It was Miss Saeed. Did that fantastic meme of us. Oh no, that was the Distraction, Quantum of Solace or whatever. It was from that, wasn't it? It was a sort of she did that one, but then I think someone else did the Beastie Boys thing with us, the Teachy Boys. So I think that one needs to be done. I've also enjoyed you doing Friday Where I'm in Love, although it's not Friday, it feels like Friday. Friday I'm in Love by The Cure. I've enjoyed you doing that. So those are my two requests for later, Ed. We should maybe after the news. We should go through the list, shouldn't we? And before the news, let's reflect how we started, Ed. Let's reflect how we started because Tom said I liked your Joni Mitchell stuff. Yes, a Joni Mitchell song, and also I also love Joni Mitchell, and we did some Neil Young once upon a time because he's not on Spotify anymore. North Joni. But anyway, going back to how we started. So if I remember rightly, I went to speak at New Voices, the last New Voices there was, because there was going to be one this year, but then it got pulled, I think, due to the busyness of Hamish Smith and others. And I was on her Saturday afternoon radio show following speaking at New Voices. So I spoke at New Voices in October 2020. 2021, and then she was doing Jane Manzoni, who is Hey Miss Smith on Twitter, was doing a Saturday afternoon show, and she used to have 3 guests, and it was quite formal in comparison to our show. And I was on, and I talked too much. There's a thing. And she just joked and laughed with me and said, "You need your own show, mate." And I said, "I don't know. I don't know if I can do. I don't know if I can do my own show. Really, I'd just be talking to the wall, and it wouldn't feel right." And then I just put something on Twitter, and then you said, "We could do one together." And
What was I thinking?
what were you thinking? What were you thinking? And then I checked in with you on WhatsApp, and you were being semi-serious. And so then we messaged Tom, I think, and said, "Could we do?" And I think we're still the only people who do a co-show. I think Tom had some alternate weeks people for a while, or maybe still has alternate weeks people. But yeah, and that's how we started. And so we started. I think our first show was right at the end of November or beginning of December 2021, and yeah, at that point we had a format, didn't we? We had Tweet of the Week.
Yeah,
We
there
had
was
the
sort
big
of,
question. There was a lot more. I was much more active on Twitter back then.
There was too much format then, and there's too little format now. I think the sweet spot was somewhere in between.
That's
But we'll
bang
find
on.
out what the public thought when we come back from the news, and we find out what were our all-time top 10s or something.
Yeah, well, we'll have a flick through that list that Tom sent out via Slack. Right, okay, everybody. So we are halfway through the show. It is time for the news. There'll be a few adverts, and there will be some tech update as well. We all love the tech update. I'm going to miss that most, you know.
Which one's Control C and which one's Control V? So hopefully he'll squeeze that in.
Okay, here we go.
It's time for a fresh start to language learning. Pearson EdXL's new student-centred French, German and Spanish 2024 GCSEs cater to the needs of all learners, regardless of their background, ability or reason for studying. Rooted in learned language knowledge, their assessments are transparent and accessible, allowing all students to showcase their language skills. Through inclusive and relatable content, the new Pearson EdXL MFL GCSEs build a shared cultural capital that helps students develop an understanding of and appreciation for the wider world. Find out more at go.pearson.com/MFL GCSE 24.
This programme has been brought to you by the Happy Confident Company. Our clinically approved, ready-to-go wellbeing and mental health programme will help your pupils thrive. In only 10 minutes a day, you'll be able to deliver social and emotional learning and wellbeing tools throughout your school. To find out more, visit us at www.happyconfident.com.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
The BBC reports on the lack of suitable childcare for children with special educational needs and disabilities, particularly over school holidays. The report features data from the charity Quorum, which shows that only 1 in 20 councils in England say there is enough childcare for SEND children during school holidays. In some areas, including London and Yorkshire, there were no councils with sufficient childcare available. Parents of children with SEND say that in some cases, they are unable to work because of the lack of suitable childcare in holiday periods. Others express concern at the significant change in routines brought about by having to spend the whole summer at home with parents. Quorum conducted similar surveys in Scotland, where no councils reported having enough childcare for children with SEND. Similarly, in Wales, there was a lack of adequate provision, with only 5% of councils saying they had enough suitable places. In a different survey by Contact and the Disabled Children's Partnership, covering 1,800 parents of children with SEND, 9 out of 10 said they were not able to find a suitable holiday club or activity. While there is a legal duty in England for local authorities to make sure there is sufficient childcare available for parents who want to work, up to 14 years and extended to 18 years for parents of disabled children, it does not have to be paid for by the local authority. This means even where childcare can be found, the costs can be prohibitive. A spokesperson for the Department of Education said the government is investing £300 million to test new approaches to short respite breaks, and that holiday activities in its food programme help children from low-income families over the holidays. The Guardian has focused on plans to limit the number of students taking low-value degrees in England, a measure the paper says is most likely to hit working-class, Black, Asian and minority ethnic applicants. Courses that do not have a high proportion of graduates getting a professional job, going on to postgraduate study, or starting a business will be capped. Vice-Chancellors say the measure could act as a red flag, putting off students who may feel the course will damage their life chances. The numbers cap is unlikely to affect the bulk of courses offered by Oxbridge or Russell Group universities. The government appears to have moved away from applying minimum entry requirements for school leavers, which had been floated as a way to control student numbers. The changes are unlikely to help improve the financial position of English universities either. They have seen tuition fees frozen at £9,250 per student since 2017. Inflation has eroded the value of fees, and many institutions say they now lose money for every UK student. Schools Week reported on the release of SATS results, focusing on the repeat problem faced by many head teachers, actually getting access to them. This was despite government promises that the previous issues had been ironed out. Multiple error messages appeared, and when many tried to access the primary assessment gateway, they got messages which included one saying that the system was currently unavailable due to planned maintenance. Last year, schools faced issues with late results, lost scripts and an unanswered helpline, but a lessons learned review in April said robust tests had made sure similar events would not happen this year. Schools Week has previously reported on technical issues which delayed marking by a week, and complaints that pay rates had gone down again. Capita has a £107 million contract to deliver the assessments in a 7-year deal which began last year. Meanwhile, other media outlets focused on the attainment results themselves, which show that it remains significantly lower than before COVID and that they've changed little since last year. The proportion of 10 and 11-year-olds meeting the government's expected standards in reading, writing and maths combined remained at 59%, the same as in 2022, down from 65% in 2019. Results in reading were down to 73% from 75% in 2022, but this year's paper triggered mass complaints from parents and teachers, saying it had left some pupils in tears. This year's cohort had the majority of Year 3 and Year 4 disrupted by the pandemic. Finally, Sky News broadcast a wide-ranging interview with Education Secretary Gillian Keegan. One of the topics covered was absent pupils, with Ms Keegan saying that absence levels were now a crisis. She went on to say that she would pick them up myself when asked the best way to tackle the issue. When questioned as to whether collecting pupils was a good use of school leaders' time, she said, "They do have a duty. We all have to play our part. Sometimes you have to go to the home." However, a spokesperson for Number 10 did not repeat Ms Keegan's comments, but did state different schools will take different approaches. Ms Keegan's comments have been met with derision from many teachers who took to social media to point out that it was just one more thing teachers and school leaders were being asked to do. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is 2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello, this week I'm addressing a problem quite a few teachers have, the dreaded lock screen in the middle of a lesson. We've all experienced it when you're displaying something and the computer decides you're inactive and goes to sleep. I notice this most if you're using digital ink instead of a whiteboard. Well, I may have a way to stop this happening to you. However, it will depend on your school's network settings. You might not be allowed to change the options I'm about to discuss. A quick workaround for this is to see if your display has a freeze button. This will hold whatever's being shown till you unfreeze. Lock screen happens because your computer is trying to save power and also to keep you safe by locking after a specified time of inactivity. If you're going AFK and leaving your computer unattended, press Windows and L. This will lock your machine. Even if this next tip isn't working for you, this will. Never leave your computer unattended and logged in. Windows and L is a good habit to start. Now you can lock your machine at will. You're ready to change the settings to keep it on. We need to go to the display settings. A quick way is to right click on the desktop and select it from the menu. Now select power and sleep. As you're probably always plugged in when teaching, set the two drop down menus under the heading screen and sleep to never when plugged in. Now your screen won't switch off and the machine won't go to sleep to save power when you're plugged in. Remember, you will need to manually lock the computer if walking away. I'm Steve Woods, and that was 2 Minute Tech.
2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods. Your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hey, back in the room. Back in the room. Last time I'm going to say that.
Back in the room. Well, I expect you will say it again in some context.
Yeah,
for nostalgia if nothing else. Back in the
room. I know. My WhatsApp's gone connecting and it's not doing weird BT Wi-Fi anyway. I don't know, but I sent messages on here instead, Ed. So hopefully you've managed to rehearse a few chords.
Okay, well, no, I have. Would you like a song?
Should we
kick off the second half?
Kick off the second half? Yeah.
Should we kick off the second half with a song? Let's do it. Come on.
Let's do it.
Okay, well, are you ready?
Let's go wild.
Okay, well, let's do it. Because I've picked up a few songs that people have suggested or which seemed, whatever. I don't know whether they're any good or not. I think people are nice, aren't they? People are generally really nice. And then are aware that there is a risk of narcissism. You're like, are they really nice? Does anybody really need to hear a 51 and 365th-year-old man singing a song? I don't know, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay. I don't care if Monday's blue, Tuesday's grey and Wednesday too. Thursday, I don't care about you, it's Friday, I'm in love. Monday,
you can fall apart. Tuesday, Wednesday,
break my heart. Thursday doesn't even start, it's Friday, I'm in love. Saturday, wait. And Sunday always comes too late, but Friday never hesitates. I don't care if Monday's black, Tuesday, Wednesday, heart attack, Thursday, never looking back, it's Friday, I'm in love. Hold your head. Tuesday and Wednesday stay in bed, or Thursday watch the walls instead, it's Friday, I'm in love. Oh, Saturday wait, and Sunday always comes too late, but Friday never hesitates. It's Friday, I'm in love. It's Friday, I'm in love.
Yeah,
isn't it? It's a pretty song.
It's a pretty song. The Cure have got so many pretty songs. I am Richard Newbold, I think, and Lucy, big Cure fans. That was one of my less sensible moments on Twitter when we were in lockdown, and I was in the fairly early stages of separation, and thankfully a friend said to me, maybe you don't want to be pretending to be drunk on Twitter on a Friday night and reminiscing your early, even though I wasn't, but I got a bit, and that was a lot of fun, actually. We had some Friday nights in, didn't we?
Thinking it, I'm not a good person in some ways, I'm going to say it. And I was like, yeah, kind of funny. I wasn't doing that thing of thinking, yes, but what if one of the parents who's paying good money to send their kid to that school is watching this? Clearly,
I don't think it wasn't. It was more about what if someone's spying.
Some funny.
It was more of a divorce proceedings thing. I think the recommendation from the particular friend. I don't think it was.
Well, I think your friend was very wise, and we should be grateful to him for
Absolutely.
Or, I don't know, for their
Shout
wider
out to the good old Andy Puncher, architect extraordinaire. He's listened to this show before.
Taken aside, or rather called into the office of my head teacher some years ago for putting an amusing video on YouTube of me singing popular songs with the lyrics rewritten to be satirical of Her Majesty's Inspectorate. She said, "Why are you doing this? You're going to destroy your reputation and bring hellfire down upon our school." And I don't think I destroyed my reputation, but I did some years later when we had the most appalling, vicious, clearly rigged Ofsted in history. I did wonder. Did they watch that video? Was it me that did that? Did I bring them down? I don't think so, but maybe. It's a great video. Got several hundred views, that one. My Ofsted music video, if anybody wants it. I would say, we'll link to that video in the show description, but I have no idea how to do that, so I don't suppose we will.
Right, I'm going to get on to Slackerack, not Crackerjack, and see what Tom sent us earlier on. Oh my lord, how can I find it? Direct messages.
It was on WhatsApp. He didn't send it on Slack. He sent it on WhatsApp.
Did he?
Yeah,
no,
because I saw it and I don't look at the Slack. I'm very bad.
No, he sent it on direct messages on Twitter, direct DM on Twitter as well.
There's a million ways to get messages nowadays.
Hang on host chat.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very informative. They're all called podbean.com/EW/PB.
I know. But you have to click on them and then you have to have the Podbean app open.
Click on them.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for us, but just talk about something else, Ed, for a minute, just whilst I'm getting myself sorted. Go on, then. Oh, no! Where have you gone, Ed? He's gone away. That wasn't meant to happen. He's just... Oh, no! Have I stopped this call? I mean, can you still hear me, listeners? CBTFs, yes. Listeners, say hi. Everything went a bit weird then. Ed, you left, and then I clicked a button on my... Can you hear me, Ed?
I started again from the beginning on my device. I had to escape and go back in.
But you can hear me, because last week when I did this weird thing...
Oh, I can hear you beautifully. You sound
Tim can hear us both. Good. Richard can hear us both.
Like the late Richard
Brilliant.
Burton. What a great
Hello,
person.
goodbye. Oh, is Paul still recommending songs? Oh, he is. I think Paul is still recommending songs for hello. You say hello, and I say goodbye. It's hello, goodbye, or something. That's one of my least favourite Beatles songs, Paul. I'm sorry if I've upset you. It's just...
Oh, no, I think it's another song. I think he's not suggesting that. I'm trying to think what it is. Hello, Goodbye is a beautiful song by...
The Beatles. No, double A-side with, I think, All You Need Is Love. Maybe.
Okay, it was actually backed with I Am the Walrus.
Oh, it was! It was backed with I Am the Walrus. Yeah. Yes, which is a better song.
Issued as a non-album single in November of 1967, the group's first release after the death of their manager Brian Epstein. The single was commercially successful around the world, topping charts in the United States.
Thanks for listening,
United
everyone.
Kingdom, France.
Okay.
Thank you, Wikipedia. That's bored me now.
Right.
What was I thinking of? What's the other song? Somebody in the chat. What was I thinking of then when I said, oh no, it's not the Beatles? Am I thinking of Adele, perhaps? She did a song called Hello, but there must be more than that.
Oh.
Anyway, I don't
know.
I'm
having problems. Tom. Is Tom still in line? Yes, he is. He's still there. Tom, tell me where you sent it to on Slack. You sent it to a...
I've got it on a DM.
Okay.
I can't
use my Twitter. Well, I can use my Twitter DM, but that doesn't work because I've not got. No, I need to do it on my phone.
Hey, Rachel Higginson's entered the live studio. Let's say
Rachel Higginson
hi, Rachel.
in the house. Creative Hig.
I was thinking, say hello and wave goodbye. Yeah, I was thinking that, Lucy. That's a lovely song, isn't it? I think that's a much lovelier song than Hello Goodbye by the Beatles.
Say hello, wave goodbye. Is that the song that Lucy was thinking of?
That's the song I was thinking of. I don't know if it's the song she was thinking of. I'm not a mind reader. I've got,
I should say, I didn't say last week. I didn't say last week. When I did a massive treatise about Blur, did I say that Lucy and I said hello to each other because she was at the Sunday gig, and it's lovely to see Lucy. And I have to say that I know I know Lucy's going to miss this show a lot. That sounds really arrogant, but Lucy, you're in my life now, so we will see each other, and your lovely husband Richard, and Richard Newbold. I still owe you lunch, so we've got to sort that out. But I'm not really around much in the summer because I'm off to Lucca with the kids tomorrow for a few days, and that does involve watching Blur on Saturday night in Italy. And then I'm back, then I go to Woman Festival, then I've got taking Mother down to Devon for a holiday in her own house, and some swimming, I hope, with you, Ed. But there will be a lunch, Richard Newbold, in the autumn to let you know how I'm getting on at what's it, and lunch with Rachel Higginson. Well, not in Kent, but yeah, come swimming with Ed and I, Rachel.
Again, maybe that was a nice day out, wasn't it?
Yes.
I don't see enough of Rachel, given that I drive within inches of her house fairly often. I don't see enough of her.
Yeah, I can see Rachel in the summer too with you. Although I probably can't overnight because I'm in charge of Mother overnight, but I can daytime. Anyway, there we are. Right, Ed, what's happening? I'm struggling to do two things at once.
Okay, well, you were going to look at these things that had the most downloads and see if there was any common thread. Given we've got 10 minutes left at the end of the show, I don't know if we junk that notional segment and just agree that it's probably chance, isn't it, which brings people to the show?
I think we did some quite high publicity ones, but they were fairly early on. Our chat about creativity was quite a big one, which was good to have Rachel in the room. There was one chat we had, which was quite one of the popular ones, which I checked on earlier on, as I'm now struggling to do two things at once. So I think there was one about degrees. There was about, there was a lot of debate on Twitter about, is it important that teachers have a degree and that we are academic professionals? That was quite a popular one. There was early on, our sort of Christmas party, right at the beginning, we had sort of Christmas party stuff, and we were quite irreverent and stuff, weren't we? With our,
we weren't irreverent.
I think we were.
Like what was the name of Peter Cook's club in London? Was it the Embassy or something like that?
We can't do any Peter Cook work.
We'll be irreverent like that, like Peter Cook and Dudley Moore.
I saw a clip of theirs on Twitter yesterday by accident, and it didn't involve swearing, which is pretty rare. For them,
sound very much like Peter.
I loved that. After my A levels, my housemaster at my boarding school played us some Pete and Dud, some Derek and Clive, and the one. There was a man on a fifth-story window. He was so afraid, so he said, "Jump, you something, bleep, jump," and he jumped, hit the deck, broke his bleep neck. We laugh. We nearly bleep. Something bleep. We haven't laughed so much since Auntie Mabel caught her left bleep.
Caught her left in the mangle.
Oh.
Forgive us, we are miserable sinners.
Filthy bleep.
Happy days. You couldn't do it now, could you? You couldn't do it now. Couldn't do it now. Political madness.
Auntie Mabel catching her left whatever in the mangle is the most ridiculously obscure and funny line of all time, really.
I find it very amusing, but I do think that it was probably upsetting for Auntie Mabel and could actually have caused some serious damage. So I don't know that we should be laughing at that.
It's just quite hard to envisage that actually happening. So it's.
Well, I don't know if you've ever caught your thumb in a mangle, but it happens, and it's blinking sore, I can tell you. I'm sure there's people out there catching all sorts in mangles for their own entertainment, but that's another story altogether.
Hang on, Rachel's just said, hang on, my favourite moment was listening to you both swimming. Oh, she corrected it, singing. Listening to you both singing whilst I was running and laughing so hard it was so out of time that I had to stop running. Oh, good. Okay.
That is... it is terribly out of time. That is largely due to latency rather than Toby's inability to sing, although it's not entirely unrelated to that. I just plough on, and of course he's always about 2 seconds behind because it takes that long for me to get to him and then him to get back in a way. So I'm always like,
I know, and
I'm glad I'm not listening to this.
No, I'm not.
I just have to ignore it and carry on.
Unless it's the Beastie Boys, I'm not going to join in on any more singing because you have a beautiful voice and a beautiful, beautiful musicality about you, Ed, and people love that much more than they love my.
I think they're quite amused either way. I think if it was just me being soulful, if I was I'm going to say middle-aged man, but frankly, get a late middle-aged man singing away to his ukulele, it'd be fairly pitiful, wouldn't it? Unless unless something was happening to disrupt it. Anyway, why don't we do that then?
What do what?
You wake up late for school and you don't want to go. You ask your mom, please, but she still says,
No!
thank you. You do the rhymes, yeah. You missed 2 classes and no homework. But your teacher preaches class like you're some kind of...
jerk!
That's latency, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta fight for your right
to party!
Party. Your popcorn smoking man, he said no way. The hypocrite smokes
2 packs a day.
2 packs a day. Man, living at home is such a drag. I bet they don't live at home anymore, those Peachy Boys. Now your mum threw away your best porno mag. Busted.
One of them's dead.
You gotta fight for your right to party.
Anyway, have we seen the back of him?
It's marvellous,
because that was
isn't
all
it?
about Partygate. Have we properly seen the back of that man in politics now? Or is he going to sort of weasel his way back in some sort of weird Trumpian fashion?
We've seen it. Oh, he'll turn up in some form.
Well, he'll be writing articles for the Telegraph, I'm sure, but, you know.
Be writing articles for the Telegraph. He'll
And the
present
Spectator.
a chat show on GB News. You won't be able to shake
No,
the
he's
man
he's
until
too big for
dead.
GB
Even then
News. He's
he'll
too big
turn
for
up.
GB News.
Yeah, well, what about Times Radio? I don't know. I don't think we're going to shake him. I'm sorry. I think his appetite for self-promotion is too great, and actually, there's an awful lot of the public still think that he's something.
Yeah,
you know,
we've been quite political at times, haven't we?
I haven't. No,
You're very much on the fence on these matters. You know what we haven't? You know what we haven't done for a while. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute.
What have we done?
What the hell? Oh, it's not doing anything.
We haven't listened to drum and bass.
No, it's my Korg.
Oh, is that the Korg? Oh, well, I'm glad you brought that out for old time's sake. Happy days.
There you go.
That was delicious, and I'm very glad indeed that you brought that out. Thank
I
you.
had it out on Sunday because Shades was here on Sunday.
He's very keen on that machine. Next time you come, bring it down and we'll have another play.
It is a marvellous thing. Ollie was playing with it this afternoon. Ollie after work, my son Ollie. Oh, the Korg is back. It's for you, you bold.
Yeah. What are you meant to do with it? What's it actually for?
If you spend a bit of time with it, I think quite a lot of bands use this. I think Blur have used Korgs and stuff in, you know, it just creates sort of analog weirdness, you know?
Analog weirdness. You leave that going in the background and you use it alongside a strict time, I guess, and then it probably...
Anyway, I'm going to turn it off in a minute.
It's gorgeous.
Oh.
Good.
There you go. We've probably done enough of Korg now, haven't we?
I think so, probably.
Right,
yes,
thank you.
Done.
Well done, Korg. Off you go. Good night, Corgi. Hang on. Wait. Why are the lights still on when I've turned it off? I'm very confused by that. Ah, there we go. The off button works. Right. So other shows that were quite important. So what have you enjoyed? Do you have any memories of any particular topics we've discussed, Ed? Or...
No, I have no memories at all. No, absolutely not. It passes by in a flash and then it's gone.
Yeah, I remember. I think our first show. He's not online, but Alex, you couldn't. We were all ready to go, and then something happened. Did you have a car accident or something? You were minor, and you couldn't get back home, or I don't know if that happened early on. I can't remember. Alex curtained sleep. Alex Wright called in, and that was when we were talking about our 3 most important
Was that when I
non-family
had the car accident?
our three most important sort of adults in our childhood, non-family, teachers, whether it's teachers or whatever. And Alex just threw a complete curveball and went off on one about, and I think he mentioned Jesus, even though he's an atheist, but because he was he was brought up very Christian family and Christian school.
I definitely wouldn't have thought to have said Jesus, but yes, actually, exactly the same.
So
character in my upbringing.
So Alex was quite good. Korg versus Theremin off, and Paul saying, "Are we back in September?" Well, we're not planning to be back in September, Paul. Because I in the time that we've been doing this show, a lot's changed. For me, I've gone all sort of single-minded, and I do still believe in an educational revolution. I think it might come in about 15 or 20 years, but it's not going to happen quickly. I think it will happen a little bit. There'll be some subtle and important changes in the next few years. But
to me, there's straws in the wind that let me believe that change is possibly coming,
but probably not big enough for my radicalness. But
not big enough for my radical cause. But also, it'll wash through the system. It'll take a long time, and if you're working in a place that isn't really on the pulse of forward thinking, they'll still be talking about knowledge organisers. They'll go on, and it'll be 15 years before that gets washed through the system.
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen quick. There will be a change. A change has got to come. There are people in our system now who are doing great things, and there are people who are making the real stuff happen, who are making creativity happen, who are making relationships happen. And when inspected, they can do just fine, because it depends more on the inspector who comes to your school than what you're doing. So, I look at my friends up in the Wirral, up in Holy Family, Matt, and I see the beautiful work that is about community. It's about community engagement. It's about understanding that rooting, learning in relationships with place gives it weight, which can be transformative for families, for communities living, with deprivation. You see this beautiful work, and Ofsted comes along and they say, this is beautiful. But then you've got other people going, oh, there's only one game in town. We've got to play the knowledge game. Oh, no, it's all about this, this is all about scripted lessons, and it's all about making sure everybody in the match greets their class with the same language every morning. And, and you go, they tell you that they're doing this to please the inspectorate. They genuinely will, and you think, well, actually, maybe you've got a point, because you might be lucky and get the inspector who sees the virtue of your brilliant individualistic work, or you might not. And if ticking the boxes is going to do it. So, yeah, it just takes a long time for any change to happen. But, fairly influential people are raising their eyebrows at things that were mainstream 2 years ago and, considered to be established fact 2 years ago. It's pendulum, innit? But it's gone too far one way, and I can't ride it at the moment. I've got to jump off.
Well, fair play. And you're all right for September, Ed?
I've no idea. If anybody out there in Radio Land would like to employ me to do some, I've got all these little projects which are really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to that freedom and changing how I live and being self-employed as a sole trader and doing really interesting things. But I do have to put food on the table, and I have no savings. I do own a house. I don't have the mortgage anymore. So, the terror that this would have caused me 3-4 years ago is totally different. I'm like, as long as I can actually feed the body, actually, the rest of it ain't too much. I will be able to feed it, won't I? I can do a couple of days' supply, and we can put food on the table. As long as we don't want to
I reckon there'll be irons in the fire, and you will be.
I've got a million irons in the fire.
You're going to be rocking by Christmas in some capacity somewhere.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it might take somewhere between 3 and 6 months for this to start clicking together and making sense. But so we might be tightening our belts. We might be cancelling the Netflix and having a few less skinny lattes, a few less avocado wraps,
and I might be paying for your a large proportion of your Crediton New Year's Eve. Is Kate on board with this plan? Is she all right with the New Year's Eve Crediton plan?
I'm sure she is. I don't believe I've discussed it with her. She's not on this call, is she? Let's just
No,
check.
she's not.
I think. Well, maybe she'll come too, or maybe I'll. I don't know. I don't know. Rachel says you are going to be a big world changer. And,
Yes.
that's a really beautiful thing to say. Thank you very much, Rachel. I need to talk to you, Rachel, because you've done what I'm doing and said, you know what, stop the world. I want to get off. I'm going to make it something close to my values, something closer to my authenticity. So we need a bit of time together. Paul says you'll be missed, lads. So I don't know. I mean, the handful of people who listen to this might well miss us, and I'll be missing them.
Yeah.
I'll be missing.
So, people,
Every step you take,
is it time to say goodbye?
every move. Oh, sorry. Do we not want one more song?
That's what I mean. Yeah, songs. Lots more songs.
Okay.
Let's just go out with some songs now. I think it's been lovely. We'll say some more goodbyes after some songs.
Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. Chorus! I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Oh, moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel as every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave them laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all. There you go. Did you a Joni one just for Tom?
Oh,
just for the boss. There you go.
Beautiful. I don't think I got nothing left to say actually after that, Ed.
That's the one with the single tune. Well, we will see each other in not very long, I hope, and go for a at Bucks Mills or somewhere like that.
Absolutely.
So looking forward to that. Looking forward to hopefully running into Tim and Maxim and Lucy and all the rest of the crew somewhere down the road. And I think it's possible we might do like a Christmas special.
I'm totally up for a Christmas special if it fits with the schedule. If we can fit it in, it doesn't have to be 9 o'clock on a Wednesday. It could be as long as it's advertised in advance. It could be a Christmas special. We're up for that. If you're up for that, I think definitely. Good.
Well, I'm raising a glass. I don't know if you've got a glass to hand there, Toby.
I have a glass. I'm raising a glass to you, Ed, to Teachers Talk Radio, to all our listeners, to all our listen backers, to all our people who've called in intentionally or accidentally. Just yes. It is sad. It's a bit emotional, isn't it? I am.
It is a little bit, but we can cope.
We can cope.
And,
slightly disappointed that.
So we're going to say goodnight.
Slightly disappointed that
no
one's bought us.
Goodnight, my friends.
You know, no one's bought us and
total love to all of you.
Offered us a job. Right, we can say goodnight, Ed. So you go first.
Good night, everybody. See you down the road.
Good night, everyone. Thank you very much. It's been a blast. You take care of yourselves and have a wonderful summer holiday. Those of you, it's all well earned indeed. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.
It's time for a fresh start to language learning. Pearson EdXL's new student-centered